Fallman, for those of you that don't know me. I'm a local business owner and chairman of the Melfort Trade Alliance. Yep. Okay. Welcome and good evening to all of our candidates and those watching online. My name is Tyler Fallman. For those of you who don't know me, I'm a local business owner and the chairman of the Melfort Trade Alliance. Tonight, the Melfort Trade Alliance is proud to host an all candidates forum for you to get to know more about all of our candidates. For those that don't know, the Melfort Trade Alliance is a group of business owners and leaders that believe in a strong business community. Will help all of our businesses succeed. For the year 2020, our goal has been to lay the groundwork to become a Chamber of Commerce in 2021. Over the past few years, there have been many changes in the business landscape in the Melfort area. Our market has been affected by the loss of our Melfort Chamber, as well as other competitive markets, political issues, and more recently, COVID-19. The Melfort Trade Alliance was formed from the MBRC, which is the Melfort Business Revitalization Corp, to fill a void in the business community. From lessons learned from the past and looking forward, the Trade Alliance has become a way for businesses to network with each other, standing up for our right as businesses. We are one voice to be heard locally, provincially, and in the future nationally. The questions tonight were sourced from the community from individuals from all walks of life. Our moderator for this evening will be Angie Rollheiser. There will be no live questions tonight. All of the candidates have been given the questions ahead of time. I hope everyone enjoys tonight and learns a little bit more about our candidates. Angie, if you'd like to start us off for the night, thank you very much.
You're a little bit taller than I am. I'm Angie Rollheiser, and first off, I'd like to also just welcome all the candidates to the forum this evening. I'll be your moderator for the night. We'll begin with opening statements from our mayoral candidates. You'll have 5 minutes each for that. We'll move into council candidates, and you'll each have 3 minutes for your opening statements. We'll begin with Rick Lang. You have 5 minutes.
Welcome to all those viewing this forum tonight. When choosing a mayor, it is about voting for the person that you feel is going to do the best job for Melfort. I have been on council for 17 years, and the last 8 years of those have been as the mayor of Melfort. I've been on numerous committees and boards and have personally lobbied 10 different government ministers on behalf of the city of Melfort, and I have built a reputation of being respectful but relentless on the city's behalf. I have achieved everything that was ever in any of my platforms when I was campaigning. I've worked hard in the leadership role as mayor, and I've worked as a team player with councillors, city administration, and both former MLA Kevin Phillips and current MLA Todd Gowdy. My lobbying efforts have resulted in provincial and federal government money to get things done, such as the paving of Saskatchewan Drive and the South Service roads. When you can access money from other levels of government, it eases the tax burden on the citizens of our community. There are many things that I am proud of that have happened in Melfort under my leadership. One of the things that I'm most proud of is the CT scanner that was approved. I have been part of this process since I first became mayor. I have kept this promise from the provincial government front and center for the last 8 years. When I last spoke to Rural and Remote Health Minister Warren Kading, he confirmed that the CT scanner would be installed and operational by the end of March 2021. I'm proud to be the mayor of Melfort, and I want the best for our city. I want to see Melfort continue to grow to its fullest potential in all areas. If re-elected as mayor, I will continue with the plan that is in place for continued growth for Melfort. That plan includes continued business growth through the business incentives that we have put in place, continued growth in our residential areas through the residential incentives that are in place, the superior amenities that we offer as a community, and addressing the infrastructure deficit, which will save all of our citizens money over the long term. I have the experience, a history of success backed up by a proven track record, and I work well as a team player to get things accomplished. I have made a connection with many of the ministers of the provincial government. I am proud of the growth in Melfort that has been achieved under my leadership. I have walked every street in Melfort and personally delivered my information door to door to the homes in Melfort. That literature stated many of the things that have been accomplished in Melfort under my leadership as mayor and my focus for the upcoming years. I would like to thank everyone who talked to me during my door-to-door campaign and for the feedback provided. I would also like to thank those of you who phoned me to provide further feedback. Your feedback is important when considering the direction of our city. I would truly appreciate your support for re-election on November the 9th. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick. And now we'll hear from Glenn George. You have 5 minutes for your opening statement.
Hi, I'm Glenn George, and on November the 9th, I'm running for the office of Mayor of Melfort. After 30 years in business, 3 terms on City Council, I know I'm up to the challenge of whatever the future brings. My love of Melfort is why I got into city politics in the first place. I have given countless hours of volunteer work back to the community that I am so proud to call my home. Over the last 11 years, I have served on all 3 major committees of the city: Finance, Public Works, and currently Community Service, giving me a first-hand knowledge of the inner workings of the city. As a city councillor, I am also elected as SUMA Director for the Northeast and SUMA Sure Director and Treasurer. Because of these positions, I have made many valuable connections across the province. As a council, I feel our 3 best accomplishments have been the Wellness Center, the enhancement of Spruce Haven Park, and the sidewalk replacement plan. If elected, we will continue to lobby federal and provincial governments to work on our aging infrastructure. I would like our team to work on improving and keeping a healthy relationship with surrounding towns and RMs, and work in cooperation with the RCMP to fight drugs and drug-related crimes, as well as develop a plan to help our businesses recover from the challenges of the COVID-19 pandemic. Family is very important to me, and I am so grateful to have raised my kids and watched 2 of my grandkids grow up in Melfort. I know the importance of having the amenities to keep our families active and entertained, and these amenities put us in a favorable position going into the future. If elected, my council and I will work on making Melfort the best that it can be. The only promise I will make is that in every situation, we will make the best possible decision for Melfort. On November the 9th, I ask for your support so I can become the next mayor of this great city. Thank you.
Thank you, Glenn. We'll now hear from council candidates for the evening. Each of you have 3 minutes, and we will begin with Tara Montaigne.
Hi, everybody. First of all, thank you for letting me introduce myself to some of you guys and a bit of my background. My name is Tara Montaigne. I'm a wife, a mother, a business owner, and a proud citizen in Melfort. I've lived here for over 25 years, having moved here from a small town from Ontario. And I'm married to Lloyd, and I met him here in Melfort. We've raised 2 beautiful, intelligent children here. We're blessed to still have them working for us. I was able to further my education here. I took some business courses through SciAst, which is a wonderful ability that we can do here in our town or in our city. I'm not afraid to learn new things. I'm not afraid to look outside the box with different angles into issues or celebrations to see all sides. I think that's a great asset to bring to a council team. I've worked in several companies here in Melfort, always working my way up, striving to do the best that I can do. In all of these positions, I've learned the things that have helped my husband and I with our business, which I'm really thankful for. I've had many opportunities to share my passion for volunteering and organizing events. I've been a part of many things in our community, in church, business, the Trade Alliance, Christmas events, Kinettes as a singer, Telemiracle fundraisers, so many more. And I've done all these things with a beaming smile on my face because it makes me truly happy to be able to help others. I've received the Canada 150 Volunteer Award from our MP, Randy Hoback, which was a huge honor in 2017. Our business has been a Saskatchewan ABEX community finalist, twice actually, and we've won national awards. All of this, it's easy to do all of these things. It's always easy to do this when you truly care about the people and the city that you're in. We have so many things to be proud of here, and we need to continue striving to do our best to make it even better. I want to be part of that team. I want it operating and planning Melfort to be the best place that it can be, all of Melfort. I care about our community. I care about our taxes being used for what I want for being used properly, and I want to be an ambassador to speak on your behalf. I'll be your voice, or I'll have your voice heard. You know, our council will be comprised of 7 seats, and if elected, mine will be the voice of yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Tara. Now we'll hear from Don J. Signori.
Good evening, and thank you for tuning in. As I've mentioned many times, this is one of the most important civic elections in recent memories. I look back to when we became a city 40 years ago, and I wonder what happened. One would have reasonably thought that by 2020, we'd have caught up on things like our infrastructure. Didn't happen. Well, in 2060, I don't want my grandkids or your grandkids to look back and say, what happened? I'm not going to dwell on that, on what coulda, shoulda happened. It's done and will serve no purpose harping on it. I used to think, how does council make such bonehead decisions? Do they draw it from a hat? How do I find out more? Was to attend council meetings, ask why, listen carefully to all sides of the issues. Turns out I was the bonehead. There are, in fact, reasonable answers to the city's decisions. I still don't agree with all of them, but I understand them better. When I say city, I refer to council and administration. As a private citizen, I have talked to several of the candidates and some of the city administration people. Now, I don't have a magic wand to fix this, the infrastructure. I wish I could come before you today with some solution to have this work done in a year. It's not going to happen. What I have found out, however, is that we can do at least 10 city blocks a year. If that's the case, and it sounds like we could do even 15, in the next 4 years, we could have 40 city blocks done within this next term. So in the next 2 terms, we could have the entire city done. I believe that can happen. I have had discussions with the Honorable Todd Gowdy via text, email, and in person twice, once in May and once again in early September. These were exploratory talks about various issues. I wanted to lay some groundwork for potential future discussions between the new council and the province. I don't read minds, but I did get the sense that he would indeed speak with the city on some of the issues we discussed. Some items would need refinement, and some, as I look back, don't make much sense, but that's a Don thing, and he does tend to say what's on his mind. Win or lose, I will hand over all the information I've gathered to the new mayor and council to do with as they see fit. I want to look into our police services. I was not aware that small communities are policed a bit differently than cities with their own police forces. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a bright future. If we have the courage to start thinking outside the box and get our heads out of, well, let's say the sand, we should, and should problems arise like our Chamber of Commerce issue, we'll
You're
never
out
again
of time, Don.
let it fester to the point where we lose confidence in these organizations. I'm done.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Don. We'll now hear from Trent Mitchell.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Trent Mitchell. I've resided in Melfort since 1997, which time I've been employed by the Saskatchewan Health Authority. I've served on council for the past 4 years, and the past 2 years as the chair of the Legend Finance Committee. Melfort's a great place to live, work, play, and raise a family. With my career, I can live literally anywhere in the province, and I choose to stay here. I choose to stay in Melfort. We have great amenities, recreational facilities, good schools, businesses, and of course, we have great community of people. Melfort is not without its challenges. Infrastructure deficits, water breaks, streets need paving, some challenging folks that unfortunately break the law and impact the community. These are issues that exist in most communities. All of these issues, though, as a council, we continue to work to address. I believe in a balanced approach to spending between culture, recreation, and infrastructure. Water loss affects the bottom line of our budget each year. Replacement of these failing lines will save money and is important to eliminate the inconvenience to citizens dealing with service disruptions. This failing infrastructure needs to be replaced prior to resurfacing of streets, which is the fiscally responsible approach. Half of the tax increases implemented over the past 2 years have been directed to the Infrastructure Replacement Fund, which permits this work to continue. The health of that fund is important, as each and every year the city makes applications to funds from higher levels of government. These funding applications target our infrastructure, and if approved, 66% of the costs of the funds of the projects are funded by higher levels of government. We need to have the 33%, our portion, readily available to react in the event that we get those approved. I do believe, however, we need to continue to invest in the infrastructure outside of those approvals. We need to monitor areas of concern and areas that have repeated breaks and fix those on an ongoing basis. Investment into culture and recreation have been positive for the citizens of Melfort by increasing opportunities that support the health and well-being of our citizens. These facilities also improve business traffic as people from surrounding areas visit the city to leverage those opportunities. I want to see continued investment in the Spruce Haven site, expansion of walking paths with paved surfaces to the benefit of folks with mobility issues as well. Preventative maintenance of our facilities is also a key investment and often save money in the long run. If elected, I pledge to continue to challenge spending to ensure positive investment, fiscal responsibility, and fair taxation. I will always be available to hear your concerns. It's been an honor to serve on council. I truly am invested in this community and plan to stay for a long haul. I respectfully ask for your support on November 9th. Thank you.
Thank you, Trent. We'll now hear from Doug Terry.
Good evening. Thank you for this opportunity to address the citizens of Melfort prior to our civic election. I would like to think that most of you already know me or may still recognize me despite my accelerated aging that civic government has caused me over the years. Okay, all kidding aside, you have a sincere and passionate group of citizens here before you tonight who are willing to give their time and effort for the good of our community, and I commend them all for that. Our community, like other communities, are facing challenging times with the COVID environment we are all in. Our businesses are negatively impacted, our recreational facility use is restricted, our assembly is prohibited, and now recent lumber costs have stifled construction. The COVID impact on our city budget has resulted in reduced manpower, reduced revenue, and increased operational costs to meet COVID precautions. And our city staff and administration have met these challenges. Despite all these new challenges, our original ones remain. We have aging infrastructure causing us high water loss that requires major water line replacements. We need extensive pavement, sidewalk repair and replacement. We have a costly regulatory compliance imposed on our waste grounds. And now we need increased efforts to reduce vandalism, petty crime, and enhance public safety. And should it go without saying that the challenge of maintaining services without substantial tax increases is always there. As a community, together, we'll meet these challenges. We have a diverse and stable business sector that we all must patronize. We must follow and cooperate with public health requirements to protect our community. We need to continue to provide incentives to promote residential commercial development. We must find common ground and improve our cooperation with our neighboring communities. We have a vibrant community that we're all proud of. We enjoy excellent health, education, and recreational facilities. Our citizens are engaged in community development and improvement. Our volunteers that give freely of their time and efforts are second to none. Our volunteer fire department is as equipped, trained, and capable as any full-time big city fire department. Our civic pride is very evident. The community we all enjoy today exists to a good degree because of past sound decisions, citizen engagement, and good civic governance, with capable and visionary people at the helm, both on council and administration. I've been part of this governance, having served on council for 19 years. I am prepared to continue to do so to my utmost ability and have given the trust and responsibility once again. I will never lose my dedication and passion towards keeping Melfort the best place to live. I thank you for your time and your consideration.
Thank you, Doug. And now opening statement from Brian Eng.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight. I'm Brian Eng, and I'd like to kindly ask for your support on November 9th. I love this city. My goal is to continue helping to build our city to have a high quality of life for people of all ages. I'm very proud to have been elected to the 2012-2016 term and would like to again work for the great people of Melfort. That first term gave me an understanding of how a city works and how to carefully weigh all the pros and cons of every issue. While on that council, there were many ideas and plans that came before us. There are a few that I personally was extremely pleased to be part of. The first being the Infrastructure Replacement and Facilities Maintenance Fund. This fund is now being utilized by seeing the replacement of water lines, sidewalks throughout the city. Facilities now have the funding for needed maintenance and updating. That way they don't fall into disrepair and become a liability for the city. The second is the original planning of the Spruce Haven Recreational Complex. The entire park has become a destination for families to enjoy all the amenities it offers and has attracted many people from out of town, which has positive spin-offs for local businesses. The last one was to add the clinic to the hospital. This has made needing medical services a more convenient and efficient process, and we continue to grow that project with the helipad and the CT scanner soon to be. With the current world situation, health and wellness has been in the spotlight and should be, as it affects all of us, no matter a person's age. I'd like to commend current council, mayor, administration for continuing these projects that are now proving their worth. Woo. Moving forward during these challenging times, we need a mayor and council that will work towards the goal of continued high quality of services and facilities while maintaining a responsible economic plan to spending and keeping overall taxes as low as possible. I pledge to work hard on all committees that I have the pleasure to sit on and will always have the best interest of our citizens at the front of mind. We all need to work together, and I believe that with time, dedication, and a constant open mind on all issues and concerns, we will make Melfort a better place to live for all residents. I'm a fairly simple guy, which is evident in my homemade signs and lack of social media. What I don't lack is a heart full of caring for this community and the people here. I love this city. Melfort is where I was born and raised and will live here for the rest of my life. With my wife Rachel, we want to raise our children here. I want to see Melfort grow in all aspects so that down the road there are opportunities of all types for my kids to gain the same love and appreciation for what we have here. I know things can't change overnight, but if you have people with heart and caring in the positions to take the steps required, you will have positive changes that will benefit everyone in Melfort. Tonight, I'm asking for the chance to be on that team that will be dedicated to the best possible solutions for all issues in our city. Thank you for your time tonight. On November 9th, I kindly ask for your support. Vote Brian Eng. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. I'll now call upon Daryl Benson for your opening statement.
Are we on? Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Daryl Benson. My wife and I started and have operated Melfort Transmission for over 35 years, also living and raising our 4 children here. I'm curious to know how many new skateboards were bought for our new park. While I wasn't a big supporter of the park, I'm definitely not against having the park. What I do not agree with is the way it was funded. We forged ahead with basically 100% taxpayers' dollars when we have to do fundraisers to buy hospital equipment. Doesn't that seem backwards to anybody else? Tax dollars should be spent on necessities, and fundraising should be done for the fun things in life. I hear it would be nice to freeze taxes for a couple of years and try to keep the level of services that we have now. The only way that can happen is to make the city run more efficiently. I've always been told to save a little for a rainy day. Well, this year it rained. It rained COVID, and it rained pretty hard. In my opinion, this next year too could be a roller coaster ride. We need to be ready for the unforeseen challenges ahead. We need to be a little conservative on our spending, don't start any expensive projects that aren't essential, and keep the city financially stable. I'm not going to stand here and tell you of all the things I accomplished. From the start, I was overwhelmed with the sharp learning curve. It wasn't I or me. It was we. We managed to get some sidewalks, paving, and water lines upgraded, but we still have a lot more to do. Overall, I think we had a well-balanced, diversified council. One day, one of the city's gravel trucks developed an engine noise. It was recommended by administration to send it to Saskatoon to have a new engine installed at a cost of $39,000 for the engine, $9,000 labor, and a tow bill. I couldn't agree with that, as we have qualified people in our area. It turned out to be a broken valve spring and a damaged rocker arm. The cost of those parts, under $200. There were a few other things that needed to be done, but a far cry from $50,000. As I see it, if re-elected, I'm hired by you. So my promise to you, the taxpayers Melfort, is I will continue to scrutinize the spending of your hard-earned tax dollars. Thank you very much for letting me guide our city for the last 4 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Daryl. Now we'll hear from April Phillips.
Good evening. My name is April Phillips, and I'm seeking re-election to represent you as a councillor for the next 4 years. I'd like to thank the Melfort Trade Alliance for putting this evening together, especially under the circumstances that we are facing in these uncertain times. I've been a resident of Melfort for the past 32 years. I believe the quality of life here is second to none. I've had the privilege of serving on Melfort City Council for the past 8 years, first elected in 2012 and re-elected in 2016. I have a very good understanding of municipal governance. I feel these years of experience are a strong asset. We are facing some very challenging times, and I believe experience is especially important in this election. The next 4 years will require some very strategic planning. It will be critical to look for efficiencies in order to maintain fair taxation without cutting services. I'm committed to working to improving our infrastructure deficit, growing our commercial and industrial sectors, and enhancing quality of life for all of our citizens, including accessibility and recreation for active, healthy living. I also believe that open communication and accountability to our taxpayers is absolutely essential for good governance. I will continue to work hard for all of the citizens of Melfort to ensure all the needs are met and that Melfort remains the very best place to call home. I would be honored to serve the citizens of Melfort for another 4 years, and on November the 9th, I'd ask for your support.
Thank you, April. We'll now hear from Cam Lee.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for being part of the Municipal Candidates Forum. I believe it's very important to have the community engaged in its future. My name is Cam Lee. For those of you that don't know, I grew up in Melfort, moved away, and have lived here for much of the last 18 years with my wife and 2 young children, both under the age of 4. When I was growing up here, I don't want to say what year, but I graduated in 90-something, there wasn't a lot to do here. Most people weren't chomping at the bit to stay in Melfort either. I think that perception's changing, and I think a lot of the credit belongs to council members, current and past, in making Play Melfort not just a slogan. Should I be elected, I vow to continue the forward-thinking mindset in making Melfort a great place to raise a family. I want my children to grow up in a big, small city that continues to strive to become an even better place. Another reason we chose to live in Melfort is that it offers much of what a larger community has. No offense to our neighboring communities, but I believe Melfort to be the hub of the Northeast. Initiatives like Spruce Haven Park, facilities like the Carrie Vickers Center, Northern Lights Palace and Wellness Center help that reputation and attract visitors who spend money at our local businesses that employ local residents. I consider projects like Spruce Haven a major investment to attract visitors and potential new residents to the city of Melfort. It may not be a sexy election issue, but I think the most important task for council is to continue to turn over every stone possible for money to replace those aging water lines. The current council once again applied this year for a massive multi-million-dollar grant to replace the lines. It wasn't successful, but those efforts need to continue. We all drive on the streets that are crumbling beneath our wheels. Many of those streets have old water lines beneath them. That doesn't make much sense to replace them. Replace those roads until those water lines are replaced. The city continues to replace a handful of lines per year, but it's too cost prohibitive to do anymore. The city's also begun an infrastructure replacement fund, which I fully support funding. It's important to set money aside to resurface residential streets and do other projects. I also support funding the sidewalk replacement, as many are crumbling and some are even dangerous. Council administration must also work to keep any potential tax increases to a minimum. The city must have a reputation as a community that's business friendly, and high tax rates go against that reputation. Keeping taxes as low as possible also means local businesses have a better chance to thrive and expand. The city must also remain cautious with spending increases in light of the COVID-19 pandemic. It remains to be seen the year-over-year financial impact. Council must ensure Melfort doesn't overextend itself. While I've never been on a city council, as the former news director at our local radio station, I've been to countless council and budget meetings. I believe that experience would be beneficial. I'm excited for the future of the city and believe it has a lot to offer current and potential residents and businesses. I ask for your vote November 9th. Thank you.
Thank you, Cam. We'll now hear from Wade Rogers.
Thank you very much. It's a great honor to speak to you tonight, and honor is indeed the right word. Some of you know me as a senior Crown prosecutor here in Melfort. Some of you know me as a military officer who is trained with the local Air Cadet Squadron for the last 5 years. Some of you know me as a member of the local Legion, and some of you don't know me at all. So why am I here? 12 years ago, I took a chance and came to Saskatchewan. Why? Simply put, Saskatchewan said, "We want you." This province put its faith in me, and I never looked back. 7 years ago, I came to Melfort and decided to make it my permanent home. The city has given me so much, and that is the reason why I'm running for council, because I want to give something back. What will I do if I am elected? In these uncertain times, we must protect the residents of Melfort. We cannot afford to have excessive taxation when people's incomes are going to be negatively affected. It's not fancy, but I support a taxation freeze. This is a pragmatic economic measure that sends a message to City Council that it will provide some stability to residents while spending within our means. I also would like to see a reassessment of our regulation and zoning requirements for businesses in order to attract business to Melfort and help the current businesses that exist here. Finally, I want to advocate for the city of Melfort. This is something I do every single day. I negotiate and I advocate. And I want to help this city. I want to help this city get the grants it so richly deserves and needs in order to address its infrastructure deficit. There's been a lot of talk about what's been done the last 4 years or 8 years, but this election is different. This is very much about what's going to happen in the next 4 years, and especially the next 2. I'd like to thank you for this opportunity. I believe in Melfort, and I believe in you. And on November the 9th, I humbly ask for your support. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Wade. We now have opening statement submission from Tim Homans, who could not be here tonight.
Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. My name is Councillor Tim Homans, and I'm seeking re-election to a second term. This election is about finding opportunities in a difficult environment, an environment nobody could have predicted and nobody could have planned for. Those that will be able to capitalize on the opportunities will be the ones that exercised fiscal responsibility, practical governance, honesty, and transparency. I consider myself to have been fortunate to have served with such a council and with such an administration these past 4 years. You see, ladies and gentlemen, the city of Melfort is in an enviable financial position. We've weathered the financial challenges of the COVID pandemic without falling into deficit, and this next term we will be well positioned to take advantage of the inevitable stimulus spending that is on the horizon. Throughout recent federal debates and provincial election rhetoric, we've listened to multiple promises to spend, spend, spend in the name of stimulating and saving our economy. Melfort's enviable financial position will allow us to leverage our dollars for much needed infrastructure spending that can be undertaken before inflationary pressures and a reflationary economic environment take hold and make capital spending exorbitantly expensive. A vote for me is a vote to clamor to the upper levels of government that we won't stay quiet after being denied investing in Canadian infrastructure spending for 11 straight years. A vote for me is a vote to continue fixing what ails our city: aging water, sewer, roadways, and sidewalks. A vote for me is a vote to properly lay the groundwork that will allow us to find efficiencies and synergies that will lead to more competitive taxation moving forward. My experience working with the Saskatchewan Assessment Management Agency means I have a firm grasp on assessments and taxation tools when it comes time to budget for our city. My experience with business improvement mantra of reducing variability, eliminating bottlenecks, and eliminating waste will help us find the efficiencies and synergies we need to compete and lead other communities in rapid, sustainable development. Ladies and gentlemen, lessons learned from my career opportunities and the ability to apply knowledge from analogous situations will benefit the city and you, its residents. It means our civic budget will be planned efficiently and executed effectively. A vote for Tim Hohnmans is a vote for strategic, responsible growth and prosperity. I look forward to serving your needs for another term. Thank you.
So the fun part starts with some questions for our candidates. We'll begin with mayoral candidates, and we'll begin with Glenn George. You have 1 minute for each question. With the current COVID-19 situation, what are your plans for property taxes in our city? Other places are offering a 2-year freeze on increases. Can we expect the same here?
How I will answer that question is over the last 2 years, we've been showing a lot of responsibility in keeping our tax base low, building efficiencies and stuff like that. For me to say a tax freeze, I don't know whether that's possible or not, but I do know that we will work hard, as we have in the past, to keep our taxes as low as possible. Thank you.
And Rick Lang.
Council's job is always to provide, I would say, acceptable service levels at the lowest possible cost. So how budget process works is like this. Administration brings a draft budget to council. Council has a chance to look at it. After a couple more meetings, we will ask administration to go and provide efficiencies within that existing budget, and we try to get to the lowest possible level that we can. With respect to a tax freeze, I would say it'd be very difficult, if not impossible, because the 2021 revenue sharing, as an example, is going to drop by $20,000. And all in all, when you take into the perspective of all the cuts and additions, we're still going to end up about $85,000 short in a best case scenario. So that money has to come from somewhere.
Thank you, Rick. We'll move on to council candidate Tara Montaigne.
Thank you, Angie. You know, when the budget comes forth, like Mayor Rick said, the budget comes forth from the city manager, comes to council, and I think it's just really important, especially now, this year with COVID, we need to really be fiscally responsible with the money that is being spent, and looking for efficiencies is going to be key for all of the council as well as the city administration. We have to realize too, the cost to operate the city is going to rise with inflation, and that money's got to come from somewhere. I feel that we need to do the absolute best that we can to keep any increase, if needed, at the absolute minimum, recognizing the needs that we have in our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Tara. Trent Mitchell.
Thank you. Let's be honest, nobody likes to pay taxes, but it's the reality of what it takes to run the city. Taxes are our primary source of funding for the city and the operations within. I want to focus on the last 2 years. I'm not going to stand here and tell you a freeze is possible. I will commit to working to find those efficiencies to keep the taxes as low as possible. The last 2 years, we've actually kept our taxes below inflationary levels. 1% of the 50% of the tax increase over the past 2 years has gone directly into the infrastructure replacement fund, which helps us deliver those roadways and sidewalks and water line replacements. So really, we've kept it down around 1% the last 2 years, which is below inflation, still managed to balance. So we are finding efficiencies. We continue to strive to find those efficiencies.
Thank you, Trent. We'll now hear from Brian Ing.
I guess I personally, yeah, it would be great to see a freeze on property taxes, as it would help to relieve financial burden on property owners and business owners. If this could be done without a negative effect on the services that this city provides, I would be in favor, but reality does state that, you know, costs of everything do go up. The main goal to the taxes should be to look for those efficiencies, keeping your increases as low as possible. That way it benefits everyone and we still keep the great services that we have for our city. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Same question to April Phillips.
Thank you. I also agree that we definitely have to look for efficiencies. That's kind of goes without saying. We have to find efficiencies within the status quo budget. We know that there's going to be shortfalls in revenue and added costs as far as covering additional costs because of COVID. To say we would freeze taxes, I think, it's not something I would be prepared to stand and tell you. I think it almost might be irresponsible to do that for many reasons. And one is, off the top, that 1% would be gone for the infrastructure replacement. We can't afford to go backwards on that. If you don't increase a little bit each year, you're going to fall further behind. And then the residents are going to look at an 8 to 10% increase. I agree to keep it as low as possible, but to be responsible and not pass it on to future years. Thank you.
Thank you, April. And Wade Rogers, same question to you.
Well, thank you very much. This has been an issue that I have been proposing as part of my candidacy, and I think it's time for the council to start thinking a little bit differently. The reality is that people are going to be going through tough times in the next couple of years. And to sit there and say, don't worry, we're going to get through this pandemic, here's your tax increase, is a bit disingenuous. It's time, I think, for the council to say, we're going to spend within our means, we're going to find cuts where we can find them. You don't need to have a tax increase every year just to contribute to an infrastructure fund. You can prioritize and rearrange and do what you need to in order to find that money where it needs to go. Some projects may need to be deferred or temporarily, but you know, for the next 2 years, I think we need to provide stability to people. So I am very much in favor of a 2-year freeze on property tax increases.
Thank you, Wade. We'll move on to question 2, back to our mayoral candidates, and we'll begin with Rick Lang. Our property taxes are already high compared to other communities our size. What are your plans for increases in the near future?
Okay, let's fix that question. Our property taxes are not high compared to communities of similar size. In 2016, we ranked 7th out of 16 cities, not counting Lloydminster. And since 2016, our taxes have consistently been below the average tax increases for all cities. And in fact, in 2019, we were the 3rd lowest of all provinces. In 2016, our property taxes were $2,538, while the provincial average was $2,601. So that shows that we are lower than the average city, and with our recent tax increases, we're in actually better shape than we were then.
Thank you, Rick. Same question to Glenn.
I think over the last 11 years, but probably more over the last 4 or 5 years, we've been working really hard to keep our tax increases down, and we've come from being the 2nd highest taxed city in Saskatchewan to the 7th highest. And so we're working on that every year, and I think we will continue to work on that, and I think we will continue to come down. Thank you.
Thank you, Glenn. To the council candidates, we'll begin with Don J. Signori.
Thank you. I'd like to say, I don't have an answer for that. I just don't have enough information to give you an honest answer on that. I've been to a lot of council meetings, I've asked a lot of questions, and I just simply don't have an answer. I can't, until I find out what's going on in the back rooms and in committee meetings, I just simply can't answer it. One thing I'd like to say, however, is I have a couple of fears. One is spiders, the other is microphones, and it's called microphobia, and it's a real thing. Thanks.
Thank you, Don. Same question to Doug Terry.
Everyone on council always hears that taxes are too high. And it's not that we set out to set high taxes. The taxes are what pay for services in our community. I have friends in other cities that tell me they pay lower taxes than I do, but then they're larger cities and it's a matter of economy of scale. The mayor stole some of my thunder, but when I do look at the statistics, we are the 7th lowest out of 15 cities. And we're trying to be even lower than that. What? Oh.
30 seconds.
Well, my time's up?
No.
Oh, okay. I didn't know what he was holding up there for a minute. So, you know, we need to grow our tax base is the obvious thing. We need to grow our businesses, our residential. And how do we do that? We have tax incentive policies in place now that provide a tax-free period of time for businesses, new businesses, expanding businesses, and residential lots. We're open to all new ideas, but we're always looking for an effort to grow our tax base. But believe me, we do not go out there with an effort to try to raise taxes for the sake of raising taxes. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug. We'll move over to Daryl Benson.
Well, the way Scott Moe and Justin Trudeau have been throwing money around for the last 8 months, I'm actually pretty nervous of the future here, but I would really like to see the efficiencies carved out in the city so we can keep the taxes to an absolute minimum. In reality, though, we actually need a small increase just to keep up with inflation. So hopefully we can keep it to that.
Thank you, Daryl. Same question to Cam Lee.
Well, I'm with Mayor Rick Lang in that I don't necessarily agree with the question. My information from 2017 shows Melfort's average property tax rate roughly average among the cities. In the middle of the two cities, Melville and Humboldt, so right compared to two cities that are similar size. I've advocated for keeping any potential tax increases as low as possible while maintaining any services the city provides. I've attended budget meetings for years. I know council and administration work tirelessly to keep any tax increase as small as possible. The latest one was 2%, which is less than $4 a month for a home valued at $200,000. So really not all that bad when you break it down like that. Councillors and mayors, it should be noted, pay taxes too, unless I'm mistaken. Some are small business owners as well. No one wants to see massive tax increases, but the cost of living increases from year to year mean either taxes go up or services go down. Thank you.
Thank you, Cam. Joining by video again is Tim Homans.
If you utilize statistics from Saskatchewan.ca and compare us to Humboldt, arguably a fairly decent comparison, it does seem like we have a higher mill rate in Melfort. To accurately assess, though, you have to take into account the special levies that are assessed on property and allocation of capital. But I think the better way to address this question, which is more of a significant concern, I guess, than a question, is to ask, do you feel the level of service you get here in Melfort is what you pay for? As a consumer, you're getting good value. I would argue commercial properties haven't gotten as good a value out of their taxes in recent times as I wish they would have, especially during COVID. That being said, I think we should aim for the generally accepted Bank of Canada inflation rate. and look at some sort of tax relief for our commercial industrial properties to cushion the blow to business and help drive a recovery.
All right, moving on to our next question. Back to our mayoral candidates. We'll hear from Glenn George. Considering there is such a large water loss problem in the city, wouldn't it be less expensive in the long run to get the infrastructure fixed and pay for it over time, instead of the current method of patching and small repairs? Is this what is contributing to our high water costs?
This is not what is contributing to our high water cost. We buy our water from Sask Water Corp. The first part of the question is, if we go ahead and borrow money and fix infrastructure, we pay for it 100%. If we get federal and provincial government, we only have to pay 1/3. So if we borrow $1 million, it'd take us a long time to pay it back. If we get the grants from the senior governments, we only have to pay 1/3 of that. So, and we've been shut out 11 years in a row. Pretty soon they got to quit shutting us out. So I think that we have to wait.
Thank you, Glenn. Same question to Rick.
Okay, so I need you to repeat that question for me, please.
Okay. Considering there's such a large water loss problem in the city, wouldn't it be less expensive in the long run to get the infrastructure fixed and pay for it over time, instead of the current method of patching and small repairs? Is this what is contributing to our high water costs?
Okay, I would say yes, it would be less expensive if we had access to that amount of money, but we don't. The approximate infrastructure deficit with respect to water lines, etc., is about $25 million currently, and we don't even have access to $25 million. So that's really not an option. It also costs about $300,000 a year to do, or $300,000 to replace one city block of water lines in its entirety. And so that is why we have been applying for the federal provincial funding, because then the cost would be 1/3, and that amount we could handle, or we could find a way to handle it. So the reality is, until we get some funding, we're not capable of doing it in such a large scale.
Thank you, Rick. Moving over to City Council candidates, we'll begin this one with Wade Rogers.
Thank you very much. I think part of the problem is that it would cost so much to try and get, how are you going to fund that? You'd have to fund it through a financial institution, and what interest rate are they going to charge you to do it if they're willing to front you that much money at all? I agree that the way you have to address this problem is to advocate for provincial and federal money. If we've been denied year after year those funds, or not been getting the funds we deserve, then you have to look at how do we advocate for that. One thing I've learned is that, as a lawyer, is that it's not just the message, but how you deliver the message that is equally as important. So I think that's the way to address it. I don't think you can actually fund this all in advance on its own, because the price tag is just way too high.
Thank you. Over to Tara Montaigne.
Thank you. This question does have quite a few moving parts to it, and I think it's been answered already. Definitely that looking into the infrastructure to replace the water lines, it's much more fiscally responsible to pay 1/3 of the cost instead of 100% of the costs. Definitely, instead of the current method of patching and small repairs, we need to do that until we have the money to be able to repair the infrastructure that needs to be fixed properly. So not 100% sure how to fully answer that. Is this what is contributing to our high water costs? We also need to be knowledgeable that we get our water from Sask Water, and those fees associated with Sask Water are going to be rising in the next I think it's 5 years, 4 or 5 years, with a contract coming up. So I think it's important that we're really responsible now to replace any of that infrastructure, so the money that we're losing with water breaks is going to decrease substantially. I think it was $70,000 is what I was told last year. So it's important.
Thank you, Tara. Same question to Trent Mitchell.
Thank you. I think the other candidates answered the question very well. Fiscally responsible. We try to get to that 1/3 contribution. The one thing I will add, the number I have is about $350,000 to fix a block, so we're probably somewhere in between there. But I mean, the first 3 blocks of Main Street ultimately need to be done. There's water problems under there, so that's over $1 million just to invest in that one section. And we've got those types of positions all around the city. The one thing I will say, we are trying to hit those repeat offenders. There was a block on Main Street done this last year that we paid for 100%. It was a spot that continually had water main breaks, and I think that's what we need to do, is continue to hit those hard hitting ones, those repeat offenders, and continue to lobby the government to get that funding and keep that IRP, that infrastructure replacement fund, in a position that when we do get the allocation, we can act on it.
Thank you, Trent. Same question to Brian Ing.
Water loss is a big concern and must continue to be addressed. This must be done in a financially responsible manner. If we did foot the bill ourselves, that would bring us back to one of the first questions about tax increases. If we can utilize provincial funding while replacing streets, this will make it a much more financially smart choice. I guess the best way to deal with this is deal with these breaks as they happen, but continue to replace the aged pipes as streets are repaired. This process has been utilized now during major street work that has been done in recent years and has saved Melfort a lot of dollars. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. April Phillips.
Thank you. I would agree with what's been said, and you're going to hear a lot of repeat and repeat here because it's true. A block is between $300,000 and $350,000. We do advocate for this, and the problem is that every other community is in the same boat we are. Every other community is advocating. We have to keep at it. We have to keep after to get those dollars to match it. And no matter how small it seems, we have to keep improving. And even if it's a small area, we fix it and we move on.
Thank you. Go on to our next question, and we'll begin with Rick Lang this time around. What is your plan to help address the theft and vandalism problems that we're experiencing in Melfort?
Each time you might have to remind me to put this thing down. So I guess I would say that theft and vandalism often occurs in what I'll call fits and spurts. And right now we're in one of those spurts, I guess I'll say. So we do meet with the RCMP regularly, and we have talked about how we can maybe more effectively enforce the curfew and loitering bylaw as part of the solution. But also when talking to the RCMP, they feel that normally we have adequate manpower on the force. And I guess I would suggest that if anybody else is suggesting expanding to another member, be aware of the fact that an additional RCMP member costs about $150,000 a year that we haven't got in the budget right now.
Thank you, Rick. Same question to Glenn.
You might find this hard to believe, but I agree with Rick. We work on that all the time. I was on the police commission or whatever they call it for a long time, and we're working hard with the RCMP to try to find ways to better police Melfort and stuff like that. And you know, I know it's a huge problem, and we just have to keep working at it, and hopefully we'll get it done. Thank you.
Thank you, Glenn. For council candidates, we'll begin this one with video from Tim Homans.
It may sound drastic, but the city does still have bylaws on the books that address loitering and minors being out after curfew. Our RCMP detachment has always been willing to work with us on a number of ways to help curb this growing trend. I was fortunate enough to attend a session with Constable Orr when he made a presentation to some of Melfort's business community at the Legion. One of the suggestions was cameras in a well-lit area. Well-lit areas themselves help to deter evening mischief as well. But I believe if we need to sit down with our RCMP detachment and ask them to focus on prioritizing the enforcement of a curfew and or a loitering bylaw, then maybe a little tough love will get things back to good. COVID has made it difficult with public health restrictions to offer programming for our youth to keep busy, but that would be the ideal remedy, I suppose.
And same question to Don.
Thank you. Vandalism is a problem down 600 block of Crawford East. We've had 6 instances in the last 2.5 years. I know it's a problem down Saskatchewan Avenue and Main Street. What concerns me with our RCMP, and I love the RCMP, is that they don't give us the same kind of policing that the cities like Saskatoon, Regina, Toronto, Calgary, for their police services. This is what I understand. I might be wrong and someone can correct me later, but that they don't have the same kinds of street patrols that they do in the cities. At least I stay up till 4 in the morning and I don't see them driving by like I used to in larger areas. I'm not sure what the solution is there. Perhaps a private or perhaps our own police force. I don't know the cost there again, and my time is just about up. I need more information, and that's why I need to be on council. Thank you.
Thank you, Don. Same question to Doug Terry.
Thank you. I'm a current member right now on the Protective Services Commission that meets regularly with the police. We've met with them as recently as last week. We have very serious concerns about the crime rate in our community. The September report indicates 13 thefts under 5,000, 4 break-and-enters, 2 vehicle thefts, and 10 charges on mischief. For a city our size, that's unacceptable. I am, however, satisfied that the police are taking appropriate measures to combat this situation, but there needs to be an emphasis placed on the citizens as well. You've got to lock your cars. You've got to put your bicycles away. You've got to pick up your garden shed tools and lock them up. These are what are being taken, and they're left wide open. So we're looking at an educational program coming up from the city to try to remind our citizens these preventative measures they may take. We have had in the past Citizens on Patrol program, and we've had Community Watch.
Thank you. Yeah. Yes. Well, it is, but it's a timer. Same question to Daryl Benson.
I know with the theft and the vandalism that we've added, I think 3 RCMP officers, and there's been 2, I think, added to traffic control. So you see the RCMP traffic control services on the street more now. A lot of the problems with theft and vandalism is from drug use, so might be to be looking in the addictions and mental health area to try and curb some of the drug addictions. Thank you.
Thank you, Daryl. Same question to Cam Lee.
Well, theft and vandalism certainly isn't a Melfort problem only, but it is a problem. It's frustrating to see the vandals repeatedly mock the hard work of people like the Communities in Bloom volunteers at Memorial Garden. I think the city's Protective Services Committee, as Doug Terry mentioned, needs to remain in close contact with the RCMP to ensure the issues stay at the top of their mind. Communication is vital. I think having a member, the RCMP gives council a written statistical report. I think it would be beneficial having a member address council chambers every so often to put the numbers in perspective. Council would also have an opportunity to ask questions as well. It's unfair for residents and business owners to have to foot the bill for these things, but we could all do our part, as Doug has mentioned as well, by removing valuables from vehicles and locking vehicles that are parked outside, as well as houses. It's not the way it used to be. Unfortunately, things have changed over time, but residents can also watch for any suspicious activity around their property and report those to the RCMP as well.
Thank you, Cam. Back to our mayoral candidates. We will begin with Glenn George. What is your plan for the public library? It's a city-owned facility, but doesn't seem to be included in any future planning discussions.
What I would like to see happen to the historic post office is it should become the library. If you go to the big city, you go to Chapters, one of those places, they all have a coffee shop and they're always busy, busy, busy. The city also owns the present library building. And so there'd be a chance we could sell that and get some money out of it to put towards the renovations of the historic post office, which we can't tear down.
Thank you, Glenn. Same question to Rick Lang.
By the time I get set up, my minute's gone. Okay, we've talked about this a few times, and the reality is that the expense is huge, regardless which direction you go, and it would have to be managed in with our other facility priorities. There would be an option to build onto the Kerry Vicker Centre as it was originally designed for that possibility, but possibly a better solution could be shared facility with a new school build when Saskatchewan Education comes around to replace the Brunswick and Reynolds School, which is getting pretty close to the top of their list of priorities. And that would be a cost shared and more efficient from a community standpoint. So that's a little bit out of the box, but it's something to think about.
Thank you, Rick. To our city council candidates, we'll begin with April Phillips. Same question to you.
Thank you very much. I'm not going to get this done in 1 minute. I've been on the library board for the past 8 years, and there has never been a better group of people to work with and more passionate. All I'm going to say is I'm open to any suggestions. If elected, it's going to be on the books. It's going to be in the budget one way or another. We're doing a study right now to see the life expectancies of that building. We need to address it in this budget. We know that it's not going to happen overnight, whether it's a 5-year plan or a 10-year plan. No matter what, we have to start now.
Thank you, April. Same question to Wade Rogers.
Thank you very much. So the two issues I get with when it comes to the library is people want to see it either expanded or have a better selection of materials locally. And so I think the question is, can you expand in the current building? Doesn't look like it. So some people have already addressed this issue. Can you expand somewhere else? Knowledge is power, and the library is so important to so many people because that's where they get their knowledge and their power. So this should have a very high priority, and we should start making a plan for a possible expansion or a new building.
Thank you, Wade. Tara Montaigne.
Thank you, Angie. I think, and as April had mentioned, I feel the actual services that our library provides is phenomenal. provides the best service in Melfort. They come up with things that are just outside of the box and really provide stuff for definitely our younger youth, as well as adults and seniors, and I think that's wonderful. I'm excited to hear about the study of potentially a different spot, something that we can use either that building for and fixing it. I'm one of those geeky people that I did print off and look at all of the capital budgets and the utility budgets and everything, and for that to be a priority too for that building, that just means we do need to look into it and see whether we need a different location for the library. But I think the selection and everything that we have to offer with our library is fantastic, and it's an asset to our community.
Thank you, Tara. Same question to Trent Mitchell.
I too believe the library has a great asset to the community, and I know I've done some research on it with regards to other centers and how they're transforming their library. It's not all about books anymore, right? It's about access to resources. It's about internet. It's about just different ways of learning, and some of them have imagination stations and walls of whiteboards where people can brainstorm and get together and figure things out in meeting rooms, and I see that as a huge benefit and something that I would love to expand. I thought I would be the only one who would target the historic post office, but Glenn stole a little bit of thunder. I think that's a great opportunity, then something that we should investigate, because again, it's not all about the books. It's about the other things that we can incorporate into that facility and add to the asset as it is.
Thank you, Trent. And over to Brian Ing, same question.
Thank you. The library, it is a much needed facility for sure. That is a building full of knowledge of our past. We cannot forget that. I love the idea of being able to move it into maybe an updated building, like the fact of the historic post office might in the future as well add to funding to help keep that library strong and being able to give those services to all the people of this community. The fact is, yes, libraries are evolving. So if we don't evolve with it, we're going to fall behind. So being able to see an expansion or a redesign of our library might be for the benefit of everyone. Definitely something we need to be looking into. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Back to our mayoral candidates. We'll begin with Rick Lang. How will you address the fact that senior management positions for the city do not require the candidates to live within Melfort?
Okay, it would help to know which senior positions they're talking about, but we don't know that, so I'll simply say the Employment Act says that you cannot dictate where an employee lives. And I quote, "It cannot be required." The employer, if that was the case, would have to present that it is the only option for employment, and therefore you would have to prove that it hinders the employee's ability to do the job or hinders their performance. So the reality is, legislation says that we can't demand that.
Okay, thank you. Same question to Glenn.
Good answer, Rick. Thank you.
No running out of time there. To our city council candidates, we'll begin this time with Cam Lee.
Well, my answer would be a little longer than that, but tell you a little bit of a story. My favorite hockey team, I don't know if anyone else is here, is the Edmonton Oilers. And back when they were any good, it said that they had their head scout living in Mexico. Not surprisingly, soon after, their performance started to decline on the ice and off the ice. But presumably, in this case, the person or persons in question spend a lot of time in the city and live near the city. As Rick mentioned, you can't dictate anyway, but regardless, it also stands to reason the person or persons spend a lot of time and wage at local businesses. So even if they weren't paying property taxes necessarily in Melfort, they're still contributing to the city financially, as well with their hard work at City Hall. Unless those in question live far away, say in Mexico, and had little to no connection to Melfort, I don't see an issue with not living within city limits, and it doesn't diminish their hard work and position for making Melfort a better place.
Thank you, Cam. Another video answer from Tim Homans on this question.
The working world is evolving, and we as a city aren't any different. I think the individual that posed this question is referring to the fire chief position, but that isn't the only position held by individuals living outside the city. It's no secret that we've seen what I consider high turnover the past 4 years. That turnover contributes to added costs in recruiting, training, and downtime as new employees are brought up to speed. We need to be competitive in our employment compensation if we want quality candidates to stay here. The positions we hired for, we specifically asked candidates if they would relocate to Melfort to work and live. We try to hire someone who is excited to immerse themselves in our community. How many people do you know that live outside of town that are just as much a part of our community as people that live within city limits? There are many. In the case of the fire department, this council passed a resolution establishing a competitive compensation schedule that promotes training and self-improvement, which will benefit citizens through a superior emergency response over time. We're trying to develop a seasoned team that relies on each other's strengths and is second to none. That is something that won't depend on where the chief lives.
And same question for Don Signori.
I'm going along with Glenn George and Mayor Lang. I have no problem with it.
All right, and Doug Terry.
Well, as a former manager in my previous career, I know you cannot dictate residency. It would only come into play if the residency was interfering with job performance, that they live so far away they couldn't get into work on time, something like that. But as Tim indicated in his presentation, our community is not just the citizens that live in the corporate limits of Melfort, but a lot of our community people that call themselves from Melfort live in the surrounding area and acreages. And I have no issue with people living on the outskirts of Melfort.
Thank you, Doug. Same question to Daryl Benson.
I think it would be far better to have somebody with very high qualifications that lived on an acreage out of Melfort than pick somebody that had less qualifications and they lived in the town or city. So to me, I don't really have much of a problem with it as long as he is a very good fit with our city. Thank you.
Back to our mayoral candidates. We'll begin this one with Glenn George. Are there any RMs that contribute to the operation of the airport? If so, how much do they contribute? If not, why? They all benefit from services such as spray planes and air ambulance.
Simple answer, no. Why not? I don't know why not. I know the hangars and that at the airport pay their taxes to the RM, and we never see any of that. So we've actually been working on trying to figure that out, and hopefully we'll get there someday, but we're not there yet.
Thank you, Glenn. Same question to Rick Lang.
Because I have a short answer, I'm just going to say a minute is really not long enough to answer these questions most of the time. No RMs contribute to the airport because they choose not to. It's that simple. Regardless of the benefits, we cannot make them contribute. We've put forward the benefits and the rationale as to why they should contribute, but so far I don't think they've given it much serious consideration.
Thank you, Rick. Back to the council candidates, we'll begin this one. Same question to Brian Ing.
I do feel any city does need an airport, and we must continue to support ours. However, I also feel it would be fair to have some RM input and possible funding, as their residents have a need for it as well. Working together with RM Reeves and councillors would be a right way to start. If there was a chance of gaining their partnership, possibly having taxes paid to the city of Melfort for the Melfort Airport, having the profitability of fuel being paid for there by the spray planes that are utilized in all of our agriculture industry around the area as well. This is something that should be addressed because we all do benefit from it, most definitely. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Same question over to April Phillips.
No, the RMs do not contribute to our operations, our annual operations. We've approached them and asked for help, and when we redid our apron just this year, we did have some RMs that contributed funds to that, and I believe we had 3 that we did an ask and told them the importance that we need those air ambulances to be able to land, take their citizens as well, and they did contribute. We would have liked to have more partnerships, but frankly, you cannot force partnerships. So we will keep asking, and hopefully they will see the importance of it and help us with it.
Thank you, April. Same question to Wade Rogers.
Well, I think the question's been answered pretty fully. My understanding is the answer is no. I think all you can do is invite a partnership and try to communicate and invite them to communicate with the city. But I think the question's pretty much been answered. My understanding is there's no contribution to it, and I think what you need to do is just invite them to a council meeting or whatever, and try and develop a partnership, keep the lines of communication open.
Thank you, Wade. Over to Tara Montaigne.
Thanks, Angie. Really not much to add to this. I don't really know enough about the dollar values with the airport. I do recall sitting in a council meeting with the discussion of the apron and the RMs that had said they would help out a little bit, so that is good. I think a key thing would be to help, just like we're lobbying for water help from the higher governments, it's also important to lobby the people around us and make sure that we're in partnership and working together for the betterment of our community altogether. So that partnership is something that we need to work on.
Thank you, Tara. Same question for Trent Mitchell.
Yeah, and again, there are no municipalities that contribute to the operations, but I do want to just touch on something that this whole partnership concept is fairly new within municipalities, and there's a building drive from municipalities of Saskatchewan, some people would know it as SUMA, to talk about getting additional partnerships going, and I think the city of Melfort's actually making some good progress on that. You know, we have had a couple of RMs contribute to the apron replacement, but they also contribute now to the wellness center, and that's something that was somewhat unheard of, and I think it's a step in the right direction. So we are reaching out to those partners, our surrounding neighbors, our RMs, our surrounding municipalities, to work on those partnerships, and I think it's a good thing that it's starting, and it's a great thing to continue.
Thank you, Trent. Back to our mayoral candidates. Begin this time with Rick Lang. What are your plans for park maintenance and the development of future parks throughout our city?
Okay. Park maintenance is basically done on an established schedule, and that's part of the weekly duties of the Parks and Rec Department. And I would say, based on the current situation, administration has done a great job of the current maintenance. With respect to new park development, it's dictated by legislation as a percentage of any new planning that must pass through Community Planning Department of the provincial government. So that's all dictated for us.
Thank you, Rick. Now hear from Glenn George.
I agree that our park maintenance is second to none, especially this year with reduced staff and what have you. What's the second part of the question?
the development of future parks.
Yeah, like we're working on Spruce Haven Park right now, but like Rick said, that's legislated, and I think we have lots of parks in Melfort, and they're well maintained, and we'll keep at it for sure.
Thank you, Glenn. Council candidates will now answer the same question. We'll begin with Daryl Benson.
Yeah, I don't know how to add to that. If they want the dandelion sprayed once more a year or picked, or as far as the maintenance goes, and the parks, I think obviously there has to be so many green spaces in the city under regulation, so that would all come under development. Thank you.
We'll now hear from Cam Lee.
Well, as a father of 2 young kids, we have certainly used the park system to our advantage, and we're very thankful to have what we have. As far as mowing or maintenance and the development of future parks, I'm sure the city has a schedule as far as mowing and maintenance. I think it's important to do so. Weather, of course, can always delay delay those sort of things, but keeping the parks tidy, of course, plays into the Play Melfort slogan. As for future parks, I'm all for more green space in the city. I know our service clubs have been invaluable in setting things up, including the Kinsman. Especially the latest one in Melfort Heights is fantastic. It's important for the city to stay well maintained if Play Melfort really is to mean something. Thank you.
Thank you, Cam. And video answer for the same question from Tim Hohnmans.
I think Melfort has a respectable amount of parks and green space for a community our size. We have to be careful, as the more green space we bring online, the more maintenance costs can be attached to the operational budget. I'd love to see a park built near the south end of Broadway Avenue. I love the idea of the beautification committee had to put an aerator in Windsor Slough, mainly in hopes of keeping the occasional smell at bay. But ideally, to keep maintenance costs reasonable, I think we should be looking at more natural landscaping, using native grasses and bushes to help control maintenance costs. Perhaps planting berry bushes to encourage a community cultivation for a cause kind of program, similar to the community garden concept. Creating a functional space where community members, young and old, can connect with green space in multiple ways besides the traditional park space.
And same question for Don Signori.
I'm proud of Melfort's parks, and I think the city is doing a fantastic job maintaining them. Cam Lee stole part of my answer there. With the Kinsman and the other service clubs, Rotarians, other service clubs have done a fantastic job. Kinsman are doing another one in Melfort Heights, and I'm just really proud of what's going on, and nothing more to add on that.
Thank you. And same question for Doug Terry.
We've got 64 acres of green space that we maintain and mow in Melfort. 64 acres. We're very fortunate to have the green space that we do. We're fortunate to have the service clubs that donate and partner with us on equipment. And our current project is Spruce Haven, as most of you have seen the improvements there, and there's several more phases to come. We're looking at paving, we're looking at extension of the paths, we're looking at soccer equipment, and a matter of budgeting. But as far as our parks go, they're not going to be neglected. We think it's an important part of living in Melfort, and we're going to proceed to improve them.
Did we already do Daryl? Yeah, okay. Just making sure. Back to our mayoral candidates. Begin this time with Glenn George. With the new skate park open, there's an increase in traffic on Crawford Avenue East. Could you offer more safety options to that area? A four-way stop at the corner of Crawford Avenue East and Scotia Street, and expanding the school zone, for example.
I grew up at 603 Crawford East. Crawford East has always been a very, very busy street, so I don't think it relates to the skate park at all. Also, with regard, I think what this question is about is the safety around the school, and they had a problem with the one corner, and we got that fixed, and I think everybody was happy. This past summer, we and the school board fixed the street in front of, my phone's talking to me, the street in front of Brunswick School. We've been in communication with the principal there, the principal of Maud Burke, and I think we're doing everything we can. If you think there's a problem at that corner of Crawford and Scotia, then come to us and we'll do what we can. Thank you.
Thank you, Glenn. Rick Lang.
We had a traffic study done on the four corners around Brunswick School, and the recommendations were implemented. There are stop signs at the intersection on each of the Scotia Street corners already, and so I guess the only other option we could have is to have another study done by a traffic engineer, but likely we would get the same conclusion, and that traffic study costs $40,000. So really, with the results of the last traffic study and the implementation of everything that was suggested, I'm not sure that there's more to do, except maybe have the RCMP out there patrolling to make sure drivers drive civilized.
Thank you, Rick. We'll now move to Council Candidate Trent Mitchell. Same question to you.
Thanks. As the mayoral candidates have indicated, there was a traffic study done in that area, and it was commissioned with a partnership with the school, the city, and SGI. We were provided written recommendations, and we took those into account, and you'll notice the bump outs that have been created to narrow the street at the crosswalks and improve the safety for the students. I think there's always going to be safety concerns, and we appreciate the community bringing those forward to us so that we can address them and at least investigate them. You know, we've added additional stoplights to the pedestrian crossing over on Shad too, and again, that's to address those safety concerns as they come forward. So again, public, please continue to bring them to us. We'll investigate and address as we can. Thank you.
Thank you, Trent. Same question for Brian.
I'll address this question, I guess, by saying yes. That report that was done a few years ago definitely gave us insight to the deficiencies of some of our street systems in this community. Encircling Brunswick School in that one block area with four-way stops, I don't see as being the proper solution. If that is a high traffic, high speed area, possibly extending school zone right to the end of Crawford East to Bemford might be a benefit. Possibly putting in 2 yield signs on the east-west of that route would help to slow people down. But I do know that there was a lot of time and investment put into that study, and a lot of changes have happened around this city so that way it is creating a safer traffic area and driving experience here in Melfort. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Same question over to April Phillips.
Thank you. Yes, there was a lot of concern around the Brunswick School area. We had a letter that was sent to council from a parent as well as the principal, and we also had a delegation on that area. A study was done, recommendations were given to us, and through partnerships we made the bump outs and we made that area safer. Those partnerships was a grant through an SGI that we had applied for and got. We also put some money in, and Brunswick School also put some money in, so it was a joint effort. When those things are brought to our attention, we have a process. We go through the process and we follow through with it. But that was, we felt that the safety issues were addressed, and we did hear back from the principal at Brunswick School, and he was satisfied as well and felt that those things were definitely going to slow the traffic down and keep our kids safe. Thank you.
Thank you, April. Wade Rogers, same question over to you.
Yes, thank you. I think a lot of good points been made on this question. There's been a study. Those recommendations were implemented. I agree with Brian. I don't think another four-way stop is probably the best solution. Perhaps extending the school zone to slow the traffic down might be the better option if that's something to look at. I think under those scenarios, I think that'll make that street as safe as possible. I work on Crawford Avenue East, so I know it's a very busy city, or a very busy street, and certainly that is something that we're looking at. But a lot of the implementation has been done, but certainly extending the school zone to slow the traffic down might be a good option.
Thanks to Wade for that. Over to Tara Montaigne, same question.
Thanks again, Angie. Really, I guess not going to go too much further into that specific question because it's already been answered by quite a few people. I think a few key things that came out of this were if you feel that you have an issue or if you feel that there's a safety concern, because safety for our children and our residents have to be a priority, I think it's really important to get to City Hall and have your complaint logged. I do know that there's issues around Reynolds School, snow time. There's no sidewalks there, so we have kids that are walking on the snowbanks to get to sidewalks in other areas. There's other issues all over the city, and if we need to have them heard, it's really important to contact City Hall and let people know what you think your safety concerns are for all of our citizens.
Thank you, Tara. Back to our mayoral candidates. We'll begin this time with Rick Lang. How do you plan to have city projects better planned and executed to save time and money? Main Street was closed for too long to be reasonable in 2019 and 2020.
There's just too many things to keep track of here. I guess I would say that we have a tender process that is always done through our engineers, and the lowest tender is accepted if the company is deemed to be capable of doing the job. So that's how we're going to save money. We're going to continue that practice. With respect to, what was the rest of the question?
How do you plan to have city projects better planned and executed to save time and money? Main Street was closed for too long to be reasonable in 2019, 2020.
Okay, so the money end is covered already. The Main Street thing, I guess after job completion, there is always an evaluation period, and if something was deemed unsatisfactory, that would impact or could impact the company's chances to be awarded future tenders. And so everything is evaluated after the fact.
Thank you, Rick. Same question for Glenn George.
I definitely agree that Main Street was closed too long. We went through the proper procedures between the contractor and the weather. It was, it just didn't happen properly. And I think at the end of that project on Main, we reevaluated that contractor, and the second part of his contract was terminated. So I don't know what else we could do. I mean, I totally agree that it was closed for far too long, and hopefully that doesn't happen in the future, but if it does, it does. I don't know. I can't answer that, sorry.
Thank you. Over to City Council candidate Doug Terry. Same question for you.
It's been touched on the tendering process, and the fact that we put indications in those tenders is what we're expecting, and we don't go out intentionally to disrupt the residents, and usually we try to have a plan in those tenders to minimize disruption. The situation that occurred this past year on Main Street was unfortunate, but that particular contractor ran into some issues, and that caused the delay, and that was not predictable. But in the tendering process, all those aspects are looked at, and we try to prevent disruption as much as possible.
Thank you, Doug. Same question for Daryl Benson.
Now, this time I can add a little bit. From my understanding, once the contractor was in there and had dug down to do the replacements, there have been a lot of previous repairs there over the years, and different materials, whether it was PVC pipe, cast iron pipe. So when they went to do some of this, they needed special different connections to hook in, which weren't available right away. So that was one. The weather played a factor in it. So possibly administration could keep a little better inventory of exactly what is in the ground and where, and have the necessary materials in stock to do the job then. Thank you.
Thank you, Daryl. Cam Lee, same question over to you.
Well, without having been on council or in administration, it's hard for me to say if any city projects are poorly planned or executed or need to be improved. But I know there are some safeguards in place to ensure the projects are done as quickly and as cost efficiently as possible. In this case, if I'm not mistaken, as Councillor Benson mentioned, there were just some unforeseen circumstances. Sometimes stuff just happens, and it's unfortunate, and it was kind of an annoyance, but it happens. The issue, though, stems from the fact that all these water lines need to be replaced, and I think that's the major issue here. Something the city's been trying to do for years, and unfortunately, it's an ongoing challenge and will be until those repairs are done. Thank you.
Thank you, Cam. Another video answer from Tim Homans on the same question.
Agreed with this question. The hope for me going forward is that we will see upper levels of government come through with their campaign promises of infrastructure spending so we can finally tackle these issues in short order. Being able to leverage our dollars through the utilization of the Investing in Canada infrastructure funding vehicle will help save our municipal tax dollars. As for the Main Street repair timeline, administration recognized that the successful bid on the tender had likely bid off more than what they could chew, and the city moved to get another contractor in that could better do the job. This caused delays. Construction bonds in the tendering process can only be recovered in certain situations and wouldn't nearly address the loss of prime business hours lost due to the construction downtime. The city has implemented a call for qualifications from bidders to better assess whether they can complete the work as they claim, and consults with engineering consultants to better assess the workload and with respect to bidders' capabilities. Hopefully these added measures will result in a better tendering and bidding process, as well as result in quicker, more efficient, and less costly projects.
All right, and we'll hear from Don Signori on the same question.
Thank you. Here again, I don't have a lot to say on this one because I'm not on council. I don't know all the specifics. I know that weather and machinery problems and things can get in the way. Can I answer this any way I'd like? I live on the 600 block of Crawford East. There's no extra traffic. We don't need an extra sign. We don't need speed bumps. I haven't seen any extra traffic at all, except for 2 or 3 that like to speed down the street, but they've been doing that for years. Thank you.
Thank you, Don. Over to our mayoral candidates again. Next question, we will begin with Glenn George. How do you plan to support local businesses with city-required work and supplies? Are jobs offered for tender to all local businesses?
As a local business person in Melfort for 30 years, I lobbied City Hall all the time as, why don't you buy this from us? Why don't you buy this from us? And they started to. And so, you know, I think we give local business as much opportunity as we can. And I know that in my years in business, I used to harp on them quite a bit. And my years on council, I used to harp on them a lot. So, you know, I like the thing, buy local, and I'm all for buying local. So let's face it, you know, we help ourselves by buying local. So, you know, we promote that every chance we get. Thank you.
Thank you, Glenn. Same question for Rick Lang.
I would have to say I agree with that. We should buy local and we should support our local businesses as much as we possibly can. The reality is that almost all of our work and supplies are tendered out. Tenders are listed on the city website, and it is up to the individual who is interested in supplying that service to put in a tender. Most often, the tenders are awarded to the lowest tender, however. So if there's a local business that wants to do business with the city, they should try to make sure that their tender is the lowest and is the best competitive tender that we get.
Thank you, Rick. We'll move over to our city council candidates and begin with the same question with Tara Montaigne.
Thank you, Angie. You know, I've had the opportunity to meet with, I think, 4 or 5 people that are sitting on the stage here, and definitely this was one question that I brought up to some of the experience, especially our mayoral candidates, just understanding how the whole process of this works, and understanding that when tenders come in, they are sent immediately away or together to Catterall and Wright, and they award them. So I think it's important that we understand that it's not one person that is picking and choosing what things are happening. The city puts these tenders out. You need to, like Mayor Rick said, apply for it. You need to make sure that you are putting the most competitive and bid in to get that job. And hopefully, being in Melfort, you're able to do so.
Thank you, Tara. Same question for Trent Mitchell.
Shop local, buy local. I mean, that's super important, and I think that investment from the city needs to go back into the city whenever possible. The one thing I will state, especially when it comes to the tender process, it's dictated by policy. It's a fair process of getting costs and selecting the successful applicant. One thing I will also say is the city is big on safety. We are safety certified. We got some good news this week or whatever, and with regards to our safety program. And it's super important for the local contractors, the local road builders, to make sure that you have your safety certification in place, because it is a requirement to work for the city. So please make sure you get that in place and continue to apply on those tenders. Thank you.
Thank you, Trent. Brian Ing, same question for you.
Thank you. I would love to see all work and supplies being sourced from local businesses. Sometimes, though, the scope of work is not within local businesses' means. That is why tendering process is made public to offer that option to all locals as well as outside sources to quote for the job or materials. The tendering process can provide competitive rates and help save money for the city, and then in turn help reduce the burden on the tax increases on citizens. Having tenders be unbiased boils down to the dollars and cents of it all, and we always want to see, I guess, lowest bid. That way it's saving us dollars. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. April Phillips, same question, over to you.
Thank you. Yes, all of the tenders are open to anybody who wishes to apply, provided that they can provide the service and meet the requirements and have the safety measures in place. We do want to, if at all possible, be able to have local people doing the work, but sometimes that's not always an option. And we do have to be fiscally responsible. Simply giving a bid to somebody if the cost is higher is just not a fiscally responsible thing to do. Thank you.
Thank you, April. Over to Wade Rogers, same question.
Well, thank you very much. You know, the old saying is shop local or buy local or say goodbye to local. But the reality is, and I think people have sort of raised it here, is that yes, the process has to be tendered in order to be economically competitive. And they have to be A, compliant with that tender, and also be economically competitive with that tender. All things being equal, yep, you want to buy local, and I'd recommend you do. But at the end of the day, you also have to be fiscally responsible, and giving a tender to a local business that's significantly higher bid, there has to be a very specific reason for that if you're going to do that. So under the circumstances, you know, local businesses do have to be compliant, and they do have to put their best economic foot forward in terms of the tender.
Thank you, Wade. Moving back to our mayoral candidates for the evening, final question for the night. We'll begin with Rick Lang. What will you do to entice businesses to stay within our city or attract new business to come to Melfort?
I guess the answer to this one is we have business incentives in place. And in fact, our business incentives are copied by some of our neighboring communities because our incentives are that good. We should continue to build facilities that enhance our community as our financial situation allows. Often, companies evaluate what a community has to offer to their employees or to their families in their decision to locate somewhere. So I think all of those points are very valid, and we need to follow those.
Thank you, Rick. Same question for Glenn George.
Plain and simple, I think we want to make Melfort the best that it can be. Have the facilities so that when people come here, they want to stay. As far as businesses, we have good incentives in place now, and you know, with the Amazons and the Rakutens and all those guys, it's making really tough on retail. Every kind of retail. So, you know, like I don't know what else we can do other than what we have in place already.
Thank you, Glenn. Back to our council candidates. We'll begin with Don Signori with the same question.
This is the last time I'll be at the microphone.
Yes.
Thanks all for listening. I'm finally getting used to this thing. I've been harping for years about shopping locally, and I'm going to harp on it till the day I die. And tourism. We have the incentives there. I think we need to reestablish the trust in Melfort that was lost with the Chamber of Commerce affair. I hope the Melfort Trade Alliance develops into the most powerful Chamber of Commerce we have in the province. I believe they will. We have the people here. We just have to restore some confidence. I've talked to business owners, and there was a lack of trust because of what went on a few years ago. I believe we need to restore that. 10 seconds. Thanks very much. Vote November 9th and stay safe.
Thank you, Don. Doug Terry, same question for you.
We strive to make our community attractive, and we're open for business. We've got tax incentives, a 3-year tax exemption for new businesses. We have a 4-year tax exemption for existing businesses that expand, and we have a $6,000 rebate on residential construction. We have 36 residential lots available right now and 16 commercial and industrial lots. We're open for business, and we want to grow Melfort.
Thank you, Doug. Over to Daryl Benson, same question.
I guess to entice businesses to stay, we need to keep our taxes low. And what Doug has said, we do have some tax breaks. Business is changing as we know it. Like I said previously, I think we're in for a roller coaster ride, and there's going to be a lot of businesses suffering over the next year or two. The Amazon shopping, eBay, whatever. But the other thing, to attract new business, I think maybe a study should be done and on what businesses might be a good fit in Melfort, something they don't have now, and then try and entice somebody, group or whatever, to start the businesses that we don't have. Thank you.
Thank you, Daryl. Over to Cam Lee, same question.
Well, as a number of people here have mentioned, I fully support the exemptions for both new businesses and expanding businesses currently in place. I think it's important for the city to appear open for business, as mentioned, and make sure the existing businesses are also well taken care of and given opportunity to succeed and grow. Businesses are also attracted to communities that offer the potential for growth. I believe Melfort does that. There's an established downtown business core, Saskatchewan Drive, Stonegate Shopping Centre, and other areas. Melfort's also attractive for any potential employees who come for their business with low crime rates and recreational opportunities as well. I'm also open to any suggestions and for business attraction and retention. Ensuring tax rates remain as low as possible is vitally important as well. And it's important for any business looking to build in Melfort to be able to do so without too much red tape and hold up. Due diligence is important, but the process should be a smooth one for any business coming into Melfort.
Thank you, Cam. And another video answer from Tim Homans on the same question.
Technological partnerships, such as the one the city has entered into with Greenwave Technologies and SaskTel, will hopefully be a stepping stone to future business opportunities. I'm a firm believer that the future of business is digital. It largely is already. We need to sit down with SaskTel and Access to help them make our civic internet better. We need to help our business community have a robust digital presence, and we need to use that to help recruit value-added business to our community, things we can build off of what we already have, and really champion our community to a much larger worldwide audience.
All right, thank you to Tim for those video answers that he sent in tonight. And a big thank you to all the candidates for being here in person, I guess just with us, and their insight into what they may bring to council if elected. Thanks for tuning in at home as well, or wherever you may be tonight. And remember to vote on or prior to November 9th.